Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of your Daily Five presented here by StockCharts TV. I am your host for today's show. My name is Grayson Roze, Vice President of Operations here at StockCharts.com. So good to be with you. As I always like to say every time I have an opportunity to host this show, this is truly one of my favorites that we have on the channel with a different perspective every day, a different analyst sharing their charts, what they're watching in the markets, what they're seeing from a technical perspective. Always so fun for me to step back at the end of a trading day and take a watch on this show and see what the other analysts are sharing. But every time I get to come on and host myself, it is always a blast. So I'm looking forward to sharing some of the charts that I'm watching, some of the themes and the thoughts that I have on this market that we have that just continues to find its way higher. So let's jump into the charts and get going here. First up, what we are looking at here is actually a multi-chart layout in ACP. If you're not familiar with ACP, that's our new interactive advanced charting platform here on StockCharts, but gives you the power to create layouts like this up to 12 charts on the screen. I love this view because it represents so much of what's been happening in this market right now. What we're looking at here is obviously a 6-chart layout. We've got the total index up in the top left. That is the Vanguard Total Index, represents the total US stock market, but it is a cap weighted index. So it is weighted towards the big caps, the big guys, the big players in the market. Next up, we have sort of a tour through some of the different cap levels. So we have the S&P 100 here, OEF, sort of in the middle of the top row. We have the S&P 500 large caps, so mega caps down into large caps. And then below that, we get into the smaller cap tier. So we have mid caps with the S&P 400. We have small caps with the S&P 600. And then we have a micro cap index, actually, IWC. So what we can see here is that while this market feels like it has been going higher and higher and higher just relentlessly, we've been seeing that really only across the big players in the market, the mega caps and the large caps. Now, these groups here have been moving higher relentlessly, bouncing off the 50-day every chance that they get, moving higher at every turn and shocking a lot of people. But when we look down into some of the lower cap tiers, when we think about mid caps, when we think about small caps, we think about actually more stocks in the market. What we can see here in this layout very clearly is that that has not been the case for so many other groups in the market, so many other cap levels. We've got mid caps, we've got small caps, we've got micro caps even, really just chopping around, trading sideways for the majority of 2021. For many, many months now, we've had those groups actually trading sideways. So I love this view because it puts that in perspective very, very clearly. What we're talking about here is breadth. We have not seen that participation further down the cap tiers with mid caps, small caps, and micro caps. Now, it does give me a little bit of comfort, though, in these charts, is that we can see these were actually big, big runs to the upside in 2020. And part of the story then was mid caps and small caps and micro caps actually outperforming the large caps, something that we hadn't seen for quite a few years. In 2020, that was one of the big stories. Now, so we've had these groups run to the upside quite aggressively. And when we think about how these have been trading, they've really have been chopping sideways. They've found trading ranges. They're not moving up, but they're also not moving down. And that gives me a lot of comfort in these. Now, I do want to see these groups start moving back to the upside, ideally outperforming their big cap and mega cap brethren up there in the higher charts. But to see these chopping around, trading sideways, is actually a point of strength in some ways. We've found buyers on these support levels many times this year. So something I'm definitely keeping an eye on closely: the mid caps and small caps, and even down into those micro caps. Now, thinking about some of the other things I'm watching closely and some of the other sort of signs of strength in this market, let's move on to QQQ. This is the Nasdaq 100, Nasdaq 100 tracking ETF. Now, we can see that the Nasdaq 100 has been holding this incredibly steady uptrend. This is a one-year chart here. So we've been seeing this uptrend really hold. That has been beautiful. But one of the things that we did see, especially the first few months of 2021, was the Nasdaq underperforming. Tech really got hit, growth really got hit, and the Nasdaq was actually underperforming. Now, I was watching this trend quite closely. We had a nice breakout back here in sort of late 2020. We tested that level again in 2021, kind of the first few months of 2021. So to see us bounce off that and that uptrend simultaneously was a great point of strength. Now, what we've really seen for the last couple of months is the Nasdaq actually putting in this symmetrical triangle. We've broken above that, and most importantly, we have the Nasdaq actually outperforming. So here in the top panel, we're looking at the Nasdaq versus VTI, again, that Vanguard Total Index, which represents the total US stock market. So to see the Nasdaq leading, to see that outperformance from that much more aggressive index, much more sort of growth-oriented offensive index, that gives me a lot of strength, a lot of comfort in this market. I love to see this return to outperformance by the Nasdaq. That's great to see, and especially when we think about this holding this uptrend, very, very strong there. Love to see that. Now, thinking about offensive corners of the market, one of the other things I'm keeping a close eye on, especially this week, is the equal weight offense versus defense ratio. So here what we're looking at is RCD versus RHS. This is actually consumer discretionary, which is an offensive sector, versus consumer staples, a much more defensive sector. So we like to look at this ratio. We can actually look at it in two flavors: cap weight with XLY versus XLP. That's kind of the traditional look. But we can also look at this in an equal weight flavor. Sort of takes out the effect of those mega cap names and the big holdings in those funds. So when we look at this in an equal weight flavor, we've actually got the offense versus defense ratio moving up to new highs here. It's been chopping around again, kind of like we've seen in those mid caps and small caps, been chopping around a lot in 2021. So to see this moving to the upside, to see offense potentially putting in a breakout over defense here, that is something that I am keeping a very, very close eye on. Again, if we can see, Nasdaq outperformance, tech outperformance, if we can see offensive corners of the market start to outperform, growth outperform, that gives me a lot of confidence in this market, especially if we could also pair that with a little bit of a pickup in some of those mid and small and even micro cap names. So something I'm watching closely here, the equal weight offense versus defense ratio, one I'm keeping a close eye on this week. Now, another sort of corner of the market that I'm also keeping a close eye on, one that a lot of technicians love to watch: semiconductors. Semiconductors, a very, very important industry, an important bellwether for tech and growth, and for, again, kind of the offensive side of the market. What we're really trying to gauge in charts like this is what is sort of the condition of buyers and sellers in the markets. Are we favoring offense? Are we favoring growth corners in the market? Or are we a little bit more defensive in our positioning? When we see groups like semiconductors moving to the upside, having a great day, especially today, but breaking out of, again, this kind of symmetrical triangle pattern that we've seen throughout a lot of 21, this is incredibly bullish for the market. Corners like semiconductors outperforming is incredibly bullish for the market. So I'm loving this move from semiconductors. And in addition to some other corners of the market as well, we've seen a lot of growth out of areas like cybersecurity as well, another kind of growth-oriented, more offensive corner of the market. So semiconductors moving higher, a great chart on its own. This is an ETF. You can actually buy this. You can own SMH. It's not an index that you can't own. But on top of that, it says a lot about the market when we see semiconductors moving higher like this. Clearly, a lot of buying pressure going on here in semiconductors, and I love to see that. Now, we're going to move on a little bit to our final chart. Something that I always love to do when I come on your Daily 5 is actually share something from my stalking list. So if you follow me on Twitter at Grayson Roze, one thing that I love to do as part of my own portfolio review process, every Sunday, I'm always maintaining my different watch lists, keeping an eye on what's working, so that when something that I own stops working, I know exactly where I'm rotating over to. So I love to put out this 10 I'm stalking list, 10 charts every Sunday that are setting up nicely ahead of the trading week. Things I'm keeping an eye on, things that are fun to share, charts that are breaking out, outperforming, leading the market, all of that good stuff, trending higher. That is what we want to see. So I put out this list every Sunday of 10 stocks that I am stalking. And one that I wanted to highlight this week that is looking just absolutely beautiful is Lululemon. Lulu is looking phenomenal on this chart with a big basing pattern after a long run to the upside in 2020 and beyond. Actually, has been a great chart really for the last 5 years. I was looking at the weekly chart actually yesterday and was just blown away by the performance of Lululemon really since kind of 2017, 2018. But setting up beautifully here, we are a little bit overbought on the RSI, and I would love to see volume pick up a little bit more. But we've been putting in this long base, big base, testing that level around kind of 400 a bunch of times over the last few months, really over the last year actually. And now moving to the upside quite decisively, outperforming the market. Just beautiful setup here on Lululemon. So if we can break out above this 400 level, hold that breakout, maybe even break out and retest it from the top, I think this is a chart that has a bright future ahead of it here. Lululemon really setting up nicely from a technical perspective. So that is our time today. I know it was a whirlwind tour, always is here on your Daily 5, but 5 things that I'm keeping a close eye on. Again, watching some of those different cap tiers, looking at some of the offensive corners of the market, thinking about how that is going to play out as this market continues to try to pound its way higher. Definitely hoping that we see that pickup in the mid and small cap groups. If anything, though, has resonated with you here today, if you want to follow any of my other work, a couple of different ways to follow. You can visit me at stockmarketmastery.com. That's my other website, in addition to my work here at StockCharts. Also, check out either of my books, Tensile Trading, the 10 Essential Stages of Stock Market Mastery, or Trading for Dummies, both of those available in the StockCharts store, also available on Amazon, or probably wherever you find your books. You can also follow me at Grayson Roze on Twitter. I'd love to connect, love to share more charts and share this journey with you through the markets. Now, I do also want to say before we wrap up here, Stock Charts in Focus. Join me on Stock Charts TV every Friday for more of a product-focused show. If you're interested in how to set up charts, how to get more out of stock charts, how to do things like what we were showing today with those multi-chart layouts in ACP, we cover all of that in Stock Charts in Focus every Friday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Stock Charts TV. So mark your calendars, join me for that show, or look for it on YouTube or the on-demand platform at StockChartsTV.com. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today for your Daily 5. Again, my name is Grayson Roze, Vice President of Operations here at StockCharts. It's been so good to be with you. I will see you very soon for another episode. And until then, chart on, my friends.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.